Have you ever had the thought that I'm just not creative enough to be a writer or artist or musician? Have you ever envied people who always seem to be sketching, writing, building, or composing, as if it came so naturally and easily to them that you thought to yourself, well, that's what a real writer looks like, and that's not me. But what if that's not true? What if creativity isn't about being a genius who's always producing, but about how you see and respond to the world? I used to think that creativity meant being effortlessly original, like ideas just were supposed to pour out of me. I was always contrary. I did the opposite of what others did, and this especially applied to my writing. Someone having done something before was the exact reason why I wouldn't want to do it again. When I was very young, my writing was to some extent original, but strange for strange's sake isn't just good enough to make good work. Of course, I was influenced by my favourite filmmakers and writers, David Lynch, Hal Hartley, Henry Miller, and from what I could see, they worked non-stop. I've always had an inbuilt work ethic. My dad was raised on a farm and worked in construction, and I, inherited a lot of that. And I carried this into my filmmaking career. The days didn't contain enough hours for me to do all the work I wanted to do. I was obsessed and scorned any colleagues who weren't similarly committed to overwork, to perfectionism, and yes, to burnout. Now, I've talked about creative burnout in another video. It's called Why Creative Burnout is a Sign You're Growing, and you can watch it straight after this one on the same channel. So I won't go too deep into that in this video. But I have realized that creativity isn't about constant output. It's about curiosity. It's about noticing things, like the way shadows move across a wall, or how the hum of traffic changes the more you listen to it, or how a short, simple sentence can break your heart. Some of the most creative people I know don't think of themselves as artists, but they ask questions, they make connections, they find meaning in mess. That's creativity. Creativity isn't about inventing from nothing. It's about rearranging what already exists in a new and refreshing way. Writers, musicians, painters, we all absorb our experiences, run them through our own internal filters, and express them in a unique way. And it's not just the great works of art that hang austerely in the Getty Center that count as being creative. Even when you solve a staffing problem at work, or repurpose a bolt to repair a leak in your home, or you're being creative. It's about seeing a challenge and accepting it with gusto. A quote attributed to George Shalaba in Harvard Magazine puts it well. Perhaps imagination is only intelligence having fun. Creativity isn't just about ideas, it's about feeling. Think about the moments that stay with you. A line in a book that made your chest tighten, a song that made you cry in the car, a photograph that made you feel like someone finally saw the world the way you do. That's not intellectual, that's emotional resonance. And the best creative work doesn't try to impress, it tries to connect. You don't need to be clever, you need to care. Because when you care deeply about something, about someone, about an idea, about a memory, that care shapes what you make and how you make it. I once wrote a short story that I thought was, just something that nobody would pay much attention to. Something raw and weird and probably a bit too personal. But you know what? It got more responses than anything else I'd written that year. Why? Because it wasn't polished. It was honest. Emotional honesty is often more memorable than technical brilliance. That's why a shaky, imperfect performance can still break your heart, because the emotion came through. We live in a world obsessed with sharing, but some of the most powerful creative acts happen in silence, and they stay there. The mother who sings her child to sleep with a lullaby she made up on the spot. The man who writes letters to his younger self that no one will ever read. The person who picks up a pencil and draws for the first time in 20 years just because it felt good. That's creativity too. I once met someone who created elaborate, imaginary cities in a notebook. Every street, every citizen, every custom. They never planned to publish it or even show it to anyone. It was just for them. It gave them peace. It gave them purpose. And that's valid. That's real. Creativity doesn't need an audience to be meaningful. If it brings you joy, clarity, healing, if it helps you understand the world or your place in it, then it matters. Even if no one sees it. You don't need permission to call yourself creative. You already are. If you've ever solved a problem, expressed a feeling, made someone laugh, or followed a strange idea just to see where it goes, that's creativity. You're more creative than you think. Now, becoming an artist is another discussion, but embracing your innate creativity is a great place to start. What's the most unexpectedly creative thing that you've done recently? Tell me in the comments, even if it felt small or silly. I guarantee you it's not. Sometimes that's where the best ideas live. Don't forget to subscribe. Okay, bye-bye.